My name is Chloe, and a year ago, I married the love of my life, Jack. Our relationship was everything I'd ever dreamed of, loving, supportive, and full of laughter. I couldn't have been happier with my family life. I worked as an accountant, mostly from home. It was a job I enjoyed, though there was more to my professional life than met the eye. Jack ran his own car parts business, which kept him busy but allowed us plenty of time together. We loved spending our free time with each other, often attending parties with Jack's large circle of friends, colleagues, and business partners. I always looked forward to these gatherings, relishing the chance to socialize and be part of Jack's world. One sunny Saturday morning, as I sat at our kitchen table sipping coffee and checking emails, Jack came in, grinning from ear to ear. "Hey, beautiful," he said, planting a kiss on my cheek. "Mike's throwing a barbecue at his place. Thought we could head over, have a few drinks, catch up with everyone. You up for it?" "Sounds perfect," I replied, already looking forward to the evening. We arrived at Mike's house around 7 p.m., the smell of grilled meat and the sound of laughter filling the air. As we made our way through the crowd, I noticed a striking blonde woman I'd never seen before. She was talking animatedly with a group of people, her laughter carrying across the yard. "Who's that?" I asked Jack, nodding in her direction. His face tightened almost imperceptibly. "That's Vanessa. My ex-girlfriend." Before I could respond, Mike spotted us and waved us over. "Jack, Chloe. Glad you could make it. Come on, let me introduce you to everyone." As we approached the group, Vanessa's eyes locked onto us. Her smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. Well, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "If it isn't Jack and his wife." The way she said wife made it sound like a dirty word. I forced a smile, determined not to let her get to me. "Nice to meet you, Vanessa," I said, extending my hand. "I'm Chloe." She looked at my hand as if it were covered in dirt, then turned back to Jack. "Jackie, darling, it's been too long. You must tell me all about what you've been up to." I bristled at her use of the pet name, but Jack smoothly intervened. "It's good to see you, Vanessa. Chloe and I have been great. How about you? Still working at your dad's company?" Vanessa's smile faltered for a moment. "Oh, you know me. I like to keep my options open. Unlike some people, I'm not tied down." The conversation continued in this vein for what felt like hours, with Vanessa making thinly veiled jabs at me while fawning over Jack. I did my best to stay calm and collected, but by the end of the night, I was exhausted. In the weeks following that first encounter with Vanessa, I noticed her appearing more frequently at our social gatherings. Each time, she seemed to go out of her way to make me feel uncomfortable and out of place. One Friday evening, we were at a dinner party hosted by one of Jack's business associates. I was chatting with a few of the wives when Vanessa sauntered over, champagne flute in hand. "Oh, Chloe," she said, her voice sickeningly sweet. "That's an interesting outfit." I didn't realize the librarian look was back in style. I glanced down at my knee-length skirt and blouse, feeling suddenly self-conscious. "I think it's appropriate for a dinner party," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Vanessa laughed, a sound like tinkling glass. "Of course you do, sweetie. Not everyone can pull off haute couture like moi." I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to point out that her dress looked more suitable for a nightclub than a dinner party. Instead, I excused myself and went to find Jack. As the weeks went by, Vanessa's behavior became increasingly bold. She started posting photos from our gatherings on social media, always making sure to crop me out or block my face. The captions were thinly veiled insults about my appearance or personality. One day, while scrolling through my feed, I came across a particularly nasty post. Vanessa had uploaded a photo of herself next to an unflattering picture of me. The caption read, "Who do you think is a better match for Jack? Vote in the comments." I felt my cheeks burn with anger and humiliation as I read through the comments, most of which were in Vanessa's favor. At the end of the post, she had added, "Looks like the people have spoken." Jack must be a complete fool to have chosen plain Jane over a beauty like me. That evening, when Jack got home from work, I decided to confront him about the situation. "Jack, we need to talk about Vanessa," I said as he walked through the door. He sighed, loosening his tie. "What's she done now?" I showed him the post on my phone. His face darkened as he scrolled through it. "This is unacceptable," he muttered. "I'll talk to her, tell her to take it down." "That's not enough," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I want you to tell her to stay away from us. I don't want her at our parties anymore." Jack ran a hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable. "Chloe, I can't do that. She's the daughter of an important business partner. I can't just ban her from social events." "So what, I'm just supposed to put up with her bullying me?" I asked, my voice rising. "Of course not," Jack said, pulling me into a hug. "Look, I'll talk to her, make it clear that this behavior isn't okay. But you have to understand, I can't completely cut her out without risking my business relationships." I pulled away from him, frustration building inside me. "And what about our relationship, Jack? Doesn't that matter?" "Of course it does," he said, looking hurt. "You know you're the only one I love. Vanessa is in the past. I chose you, remember?" His words should have comforted me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of our problems. As I went to bed that night, I couldn't help but wonder, was our perfect life starting to crack at the seams? As the weeks passed, Vanessa's behavior became increasingly brazen. At every party or gathering, she seemed to make it her mission to get under my skin and closer to Jack. One particularly memorable evening, we were at a cocktail party hosted by one of Jack's colleagues. I had chosen a simple but elegant black dress for the occasion, feeling confident and comfortable. That feeling didn't last long. Vanessa sauntered into the room wearing a skin-tight red dress that left little to the imagination. Her eyes locked onto Jack immediately, and she made a beeline for us. "Jack, darling," she cooed, completely ignoring my presence. "You look absolutely dashing tonight." Before either of us could respond, she placed her hand on Jack's arm, stroking it lightly. "Care to dance with me? For old time's sake?" I felt my blood begin to boil, but Jack smoothly extricated himself from her grasp. "Thanks, Vanessa, but I'm here with my wife. Maybe another time." As we walked away, I couldn't help but feel a small thrill of victory. But it was short-lived. Throughout the night, I watched as Vanessa made repeated attempts to get Jack alone. She'd call him over to discuss business, or ask him to help her with some contrived problem. To his credit, Jack rebuffed her advances each time, always making sure to include me in the conversation or quickly returning to my side. But the constant attention was wearing on both of us. The next few weeks did not bring the desired relief. Vanessa's attempts to undermine our relationship became more frequent and more public. She'd post provocative comments on Jack's social media, always with a reminder of their shared history. At parties, she'd loudly reminisce about their time together, pointedly excluding me from the conversation. But it was at our friend Tom's birthday party that things really came to a head. Vanessa arrived fashionably late, wearing a dress that looked more appropriate for a red carpet than a backyard barbecue. As she made her entrance, she locked eyes with me and smirked. "Oh, Chloe," she called out, her voice dripping with false concern. "You poor thing. Didn't you get the memo? This isn't a library book club meeting." Laughter rippled through the crowd, and I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment. Jack, who had been chatting with some colleagues, quickly made his way to my side. "That's enough, Vanessa," he said, his voice low and angry. "You need to stop this childish behavior." Vanessa's eyes widened in mock innocence. "Why, Jack, I'm just trying to help. Someone needs to show your little wife how to dress for these events." Before Jack could respond, I felt something cold and wet seep through my clothes. I looked down in shock to see red wine spreading across the front of my dress. Vanessa stood before me, empty glass in hand, her face a picture of feigned remorse. "Oh no," she gasped. "How clumsy of me. Although, to be honest, that stain is an improvement on that dreadful outfit. The party fell silent, all eyes on us. I stood there, wine dripping from my clothes, feeling humiliated and angry. But as I looked at Vanessa's smug face, something inside me snapped. "You know what, Vanessa?" I said, my voice steady and clear. "I'd rather wear this stained dress than spend another minute pretending to be civil with you. Your behavior is pathetic and embarrassing. If you'll excuse me, my husband and I are leaving." I turned to Jack, who was staring at Vanessa with a mixture of shock and disgust. "Let's go home," I said. As we walked towards the exit, I heard Vanessa's shrill voice behind us. "Jack, darling, don't go. Stay, and I'll take good care of you." Jack didn't even turn around. He put his arm around me and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "The only person I want taking care of me is my wife. Goodbye, Vanessa." As we drove home in silence, I couldn't help but feel that a line had been crossed. Vanessa had shown her true colors, and there was no going back. One sunny morning, Jack came into our bedroom with a serious expression on his face. "Chloe, I have to go on a business trip," he explained. "It's important for the company. I'll be gone for about a week." I nodded, trying to ignore the slight twinge of unease in my stomach. "Okay. When do you leave?" "Tomorrow morning," he replied. "I'm sorry for the short notice. It came up suddenly." I forced a smile. "It's fine. I understand. Your business is important." The next day, Jack left for his trip, and I found myself alone in our house. The week passed slowly, with me buried in work to distract myself from the emptiness of the house. On Friday evening, my phone rang. To my surprise, it was Vanessa. "Chloe, darling," her sickeningly sweet voice came through the speaker. "I'm organizing a little get-together tonight. Just a small group of 8. I'd love for you and Jack to come." I hesitated. Jack's out of town on business actually." "Oh, what a shame," Vanessa said, not sounding disappointed at all. "But you should still come. It'll be a great chance for us to bury the hatchet, start fresh. What do you say?" Every instinct told me to refuse, but a part of me was curious. "I'm not sure," I said hesitantly. "Oh, come on," Vanessa pressed. "It's at Le Chateau. You know the place, right? Very exclusive. It'll be fun, I promise." At the mention of Le Chateau, I felt a smile tug at my lips. "All right," I said, making a split-second decision. "I'll be there. What time?" "Wonderful," Vanessa exclaimed. 8 o'clock. Don't be late." At precisely 8 o'clock, I walked into Le Chateau. I saw a cheerful group of Jack's friends, 8 people including Vanessa, sitting at a table. For a moment, I thought everything might go well. But as I approached, my heart sank. There was no place set for me at the table. Vanessa stood up, her eyes gleaming with malice. "Oh, Chloe," she said loudly, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. You see, we're full up here. No room for extras." She twirled, showing off her designer dress. "This is a place for people who belong, Chloe. Beautiful people. Successful people. Maybe you should try the diner down the street. I hear they do a mean hot dog." The table fell silent, everyone looking uncomfortable, but no one speaking up. I laughed, genuinely amused by Vanessa's pathetic attempt at humiliation. Then I turned and called out, "Excuse me, could I speak to the restaurant manager, please?" The restaurant manager approached our table, his demeanor professional and courteous. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, looking between Vanessa and me. Before Vanessa could speak, I smiled at the manager. "No problem at all. I was just wondering if I could join this lovely group for dinner." The manager smiled kindly at me. "Of course, madam. Let me get you a comfortable chair right away." As he hurried off, Vanessa's face contorted with rage. "Excuse me? I booked this table for 8 people. She wasn't invited, and there's no room for her here." The manager returned with a plush chair, placing it at the table. I apologize for the confusion, but Madame has the right to sit at any table she wishes. She is, after all, the owner of Le Chateau. A collective gasp went around the table. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, while Jack's friends looked at me in disbelief. One of them, Tom, spoke up. But, Chloe, I thought you were an accountant? That's how Jack introduced you to us. I smiled, shrugging my shoulders modestly. I am an accountant. I do the books for my restaurant. I've never been one to show off my wealth. I prefer to judge people by their character, not their bank account. Vanessa's face turned a deep shade of red, a mix of embarrassment and anger. The atmosphere at the table shifted dramatically. Jack's friends, who had been silent during Vanessa's tirade, now fell over themselves to invite me to join them. Chloe, please, sit with us. We'd love to hear more about your restaurant. I can't believe we never knew this about you. I held up a hand, smiling gently. Thank you all for the invitation, but I think I'll decline. I just wanted to stop by and say hello. I turned to the manager. Please make sure my husband's friends are well taken care of. The bill is on me tonight. As I prepared to leave, I couldn't help but add. And Vanessa? There's a lovely diner down the street. I hear they do a mean hot dog. You might want to try it sometime. With that, I left the restaurant, leaving behind a stunned silence and a thoroughly humiliated Vanessa. When Jack returned from his business trip a few days later, I told him about the incident over dinner. You should have seen her face, Jack, I said, laughing. I don't think I've ever seen anyone turn that shade of red before. Jack shook his head, chuckling. I can't believe she thought she could embarrass you like that. You handled it perfectly, Chloe. As we finished our meal, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. Vanessa's attempt to humiliate me had backfired spectacularly, and in the process, it had brought Jack and me closer together. Several weeks flew by after the incident at Le Chateau. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm, and the memory of Vanessa's humiliation had faded into an amusing anecdote Jack and I occasionally shared over dinner. One crisp autumn morning, as I was going through my emails, I noticed an intriguing message. It was an invitation to participate in the prestigious Entrepreneur of the Year award program, specifically in the Successful Entrepreneurial Debut category. My heart skipped a beat as I read the details. This was a significant recognition of my hard work and success with the restaurant. We decided to attend the event together. On the night of the awards, we dressed in our finest. Jack looked dashing in his tuxedo, and I chose an elegant, understated gown that made me feel confident and powerful. The venue was spectacular, filled with the city's most successful and influential people. As we mingled, I saw many familiar faces, friends, acquaintances, and several of Jack's business associates. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and excitement. At one point, Jack excused himself to chat with some colleagues, leaving me by the champagne fountain. I was admiring the intricate ice sculpture when a familiar voice hissed in my ear. What are you doing here? I turned to find Vanessa glaring at me, her face twisted with anger and disbelief. I was invited, I replied calmly, showing her my invitation. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. This event is for the rich and successful people of this city. People like me and my father. You don't belong here, you upstart. How dare you try to infiltrate our world? Get out before you embarrass yourself. I remained calm, scanning the room until I spotted who I was looking for. With a smile, I waved to two distinguished-looking older gentlemen in impeccable suits who were engaged in conversation across the room. As they approached, Vanessa's tirade continued, but I ignored her, focusing on the men. When they reached us, I wrapped one of them in a warm embrace. Dad, I'm so glad you could make it, I said, kissing his cheek. Turning to the other man, I extended my hand, which he shook warmly. Mr. Thompson, it's wonderful to see you again. Vanessa's jaw dropped as she realized who the second man was. She turned to him, her voice shrill with disbelief. Daddy? What are you doing? How can you possibly be friendly with this nobody? She's just an accountant who got lucky and is now pretending to be one of us. She doesn't belong in our world." Mr. Thompson's face flushed a deep red as he listened to his daughter's outburst. His eyes, usually calm and calculating, now blazed with fury. "Silence," he thundered, causing Vanessa to flinch. He gestured towards my father. "This man is William Carter, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country and my valued business partner. Your ignorant words could jeopardize a multi-million-dollar deal." Vanessa's eyes widened in shock, but instead of backing down, she doubled down on her tirade. "Then cancel the deal, Daddy. We don't need to do business with her family. They're beneath us." Mr. Thompson's face mottled with rage, red spots appearing on his cheeks and forehead. His voice rose to a shout, causing heads to turn throughout the ballroom. "That's enough. Your behavior is inexcusable." He jabbed a finger at Vanessa. "From this moment, you're cut off. No more allowance, no more credit cards. And that luxury apartment you're so fond of? Consider yourself evicted." Vanessa's mouth gaped open in disbelief as her father turned to us, his tone suddenly apologetic. "Mr. Carter, Chloe, please accept my deepest apologies for this disgraceful scene." "Vanessa," he snapped, turning back to his daughter. "Leave immediately. You've proven yourself unworthy of being here." At that moment, Jack pushed through the crowd that had gathered around us, his face a mix of concern and anger. "What's going on here?" he demanded. Before anyone could respond, he caught sight of Vanessa and shook his head in disgust. "I should have known. Now I remember exactly why I broke up with you, Vanessa. You never learned how to behave in polite society." Vanessa's composure finally cracked. Tears began to stream down her face, leaving trails of mascara in their wake. "Daddy, please," she sobbed, reaching for Mr. Thompson's arm. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please don't do this." But Mr. Thompson shrugged off her grasp. "I had business to discuss with my partners," he said coldly, turning his back on her. "Goodbye, Vanessa." As Mr. Thompson walked away with my father, Vanessa stood alone in the middle of the ballroom, her shoulders shaking with sobs, mascara streaking her cheeks. The crowd around us slowly dispersed, leaving her isolated in her humiliation. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. When it came time for the awards ceremony, I found myself walking onto the stage in a daze as my name was called for the Successful Entrepreneurial Debut category. As I accepted the award, I caught sight of my father and Jack in the audience. They were on their feet, applauding wildly, their faces beaming with pride. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and I felt a surge of joy and accomplishment wash over me. In the weeks following the awards ceremony, life settled into a new, pleasant rhythm. The golden statuette found its place on our mantelpiece, a quiet reminder of that eventful night. Jack and I continued to attend parties with his friends and business associates. Without Vanessa's toxic presence, these gatherings became noticeably more enjoyable. The atmosphere was lighter, the conversations more genuine, and the laughter more frequent. One evening, as we were getting ready for another social event, Jack came up behind me as I was putting on my earrings. "You know," he said, wrapping his arms around my waist, "I've noticed how much more fun these parties have become lately." I smiled at him in the mirror. I was just thinking the same thing. It's amazing how one person's absence can change the entire dynamic. Jack nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Speaking of absence, have you heard anything about Vanessa lately?" I shook my head. "Not really. She seems to have vanished completely. Although, well, I overheard Tom talking to his wife at the last party. Apparently, there's a rumor going around that Mr. Thompson sent Vanessa to another state. Something about not wanting her to embarrass him or the family business anymore." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Wow, that's pretty drastic. But I can't say I'm surprised after her behavior at the awards ceremony." I turned to face him, adjusting his tie. "It's a shame, really. All that privilege, and she never learned to appreciate it or use it wisely." As we drove to the party, I reflected on how much my life had changed in the past year. From the challenges with Vanessa to the unexpected recognition of my business acumen, it had been a whirlwind of experiences. Yet through it all, my relationship with Jack had only grown stronger. And as for Vanessa? Well, I genuinely hoped she'd find her way eventually. After all, everyone deserves a chance to grow and become a better version of themselves. Who knows? Maybe her fresh start in a new state would be just what she needed. For now, though, I was content to enjoy this moment, swaying in my husband's arms, surrounded by friends, grateful for the life we'd built together.